July episode of Community Access Television. My name's Ariel Dela Cruz Yip, and this is my co-host.
I'm Barb Kimiech. Thank you for coming and joining us.
First up, we have Fair Voting BC. Imtiaz Poppet and Anthony Hodgson give us the lowdown on electoral reform. We're also talking about housing. So segment producer Beth Merriam and Mark Freeman, editor and cameraman, will discuss the future and plans for cooperative housing. Janie Leung and Stephanie Fung of the Chinatown Action Group are here today to talk about the resistance movement and the people's vision for the future of Chinatown.
Speaking of the future, I've got a couple of people who are working with the Rick Hansen Foundation with the accessibility of built environments.
In Indigenous news, we have Gunarji O'Sullivan talking to Chief Reuben George about the Tsleil-Waututh Sacred Trust and Kinder Morgan. Indigenous entertainment host Eugene Crane is back with another amazing artist. She's award-winning musician and composer Sandy Schofield.
And speaking of music, we've got Imtiaz Poppet, who's going to be chatting with Anna David about the upcoming One Love West Coast Festival coming up in August.
Up first, we have Fair Voting BC, Anthony Hodgson and Imtiaz Poppet.
I'm Imtiaz Poppet, and I'm here with Anthony Hodgson from Fair Voting BC, which has been run for 20 years and been advocating for electoral reform. And now we finally have the opportunity for making a change with this new alignment between the NDP and the Greens that might make it happen. We don't know what's going to happen when it happens, but it might be happening by the time this show airs, of course. But what do you think it looks like? And traditionally, the NDP have been proponents of mixed member proportional. We've already had one vote on single transferable vote by the Citizens Assembly. Where do we go from here? What does it look like, Anthony?
Well, we're very encouraged to see that both the NDP and the Green Party have understood that proportional voting is really important. We have a charter right in this country to effective representation and to equal treatment. And really our current voting system denies that right to half the voters. Half of our votes are essentially thrown away in our voting system right now. So both the NDP and the Green Party have expressed a commitment towards adopting a new voting system. Of course, the Green Party was prepared to move directly to design and implement a new voting system. The NDP felt that they had to get a sign-off in a referendum. So in fact, in the collaboration agreement that they have, the NDP's view has prevailed, and so they've proposed a referendum alongside the municipal elections of 2018. Yeah. And so between now and then, there has to be some process in which the referendum question itself is defined and the voting system or systems that go to referendum are developed and put forward.
Now, we've already gone through this process with the Citizens Assembly.
Correct.
And we voted more than 50%, but Christy Clark decided that it didn't reach the threshold. Couldn't the government simply implement that decision now, or do you think that they're going to go through a different process?
Yeah, so the Citizens Assembly process was groundbreaking. It was, it's been widely studied around the world and emulated in a number of different places. It was actually formed under Gordon Campbell's government.
Right.
And it attracted 58% support. And but the Campbell government had said that they wouldn't feel bound by the result unless it achieved 60%. And so they opted not to implement it, despite themselves only having 40-something% of the vote.
Right.
Nonetheless, I think they recognized the inherent contradiction there, and they decided to proceed with another referendum that they, at which point the Citizens Assembly knowledge about how the recommendation had come about was not really that present.
So I guess the two options that people are looking at are STV and mixed member proportional, and the NDP has traditionally supported mixed member proportional. What do you think? What do you think is a better option? What do you think we're going to get?
That's an interesting question. So yes, the single transferable vote is the voting system that was recommended by the Citizens Assembly.
Right.
They chose that. They actually had a sort of head-to-head vote-off between STV and mixed member proportional in the Citizens Assembly, and they favored STV 4-1 over MMP. for a number of reasons. I think the primary reason is that STV offers greater voter choice. It offers voters a choice between candidates of the same party in a way that mixed member proportional does not. So MMP is a little bit more of a party-focused system. Both of them will give very good correspondence between how voters express their intentions during an election and the resulting makeup of the legislature. But the mechanism by which they do that is a little different. Now, STV was criticized, particularly in the second referendum, on a couple of grounds. One of which was that it proposed to create multi-member districts and elect teams of MLAs from the multi-member districts. And I think there was a concern, particularly in the more rural parts of the province, that might make some of the combined ridings too big. Now, the Citizens Assembly members were drawn from all around the province, so they actually considered this very seriously. And the rural representatives on the Citizens Assembly thought that the way to trade this off was to have the multi-member ridings in the rural areas be 2 or 3 MLAs, and in the more urban areas like Vancouver, it could go up to 5 or 6 or 7. So I think there was a very flexible design that was put forward. Nonetheless, as you know, we've had a federal process recently, and there's been a lot of very creative thinking about how to marry the strengths of STV and MMP. And so there were a variety of proposals that came out of that. I think the one that has sort of emerged and is generating the greatest discussion is one called Local PR, which keeps our existing ridings, but allows votes in any one riding to influence the election of people in the adjoining ridings. So on a local regional level, you get a diversity of perspectives in the elected group of MLAs.
Well, we're almost out of time, but I think it'll be interesting to see what the referendum question will be next year, and I guess we'll see when that happens. Anthony, thank you so much for being here. Anthony Hodson from Fair Voting BC. And up next is Search for Housing Options with Beth Merriam and Mark Freeman.
Hi, I'm Beth Merriam with Access TV. We're at the Athletes Village Housing Co-op in Vancouver, and we're here with Tom Armstrong, the Executive Director of the Co-op Housing Federation of BC. Thanks so much for coming today, Tom.
All right, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Can you tell me about where we are?
We're standing outside the First Avenue Athletes Village Housing Co-op. This is one of the buildings in the original 2010 Olympics Athletes Village. And this building was turned over to a resident-run housing co-op. And it's 84 units, full of low to moderate income, young professionals, families, young children, of every background and income you could imagine. And they're governing and managing this building on their own, on behalf of the city, under a 60-year lease with the City of Vancouver. And it's a beautiful, mixed, diverse, welcoming community full of people who are just happy to be living in the best part of the city.
There are so few rental options in the city, and oftentimes condos and basement suites cater to Airbnb customers. So a lot of people are veering towards co-op housing, but the waiting lists are so long. What would you say to those people who are feeling stuck and frustrated?
Well, I'd say I understand. I mean, you're describing the classic supply problem. We have a backlog of roughly 80,000 rental units in the province. That's how many rental units you would have to build in order just to catch up on the need for affordable rental housing. And then you'd have to add an extra 7,000 units a year after that. So you take the existing co-op housing supply, there are only just under 15,000 co-op homes in the province. So you can imagine how long the waiting lists are for those kinds of very desirable homes in very affordable, mixed income, diverse communities. So I understand how frustrated people are when they look at the length of a co-op waiting list and they say, how will I ever possibly dream of getting into that co-op home? And it makes them angry at everybody in the system. So I would say to them, just become part of the effort to demand a growing, stable, secure supply of affordable rental housing, and that's going to be the solution to that problem.
The CHF and several other organizations called for an affordable housing plan in April of $1.8 billion by the federal and provincial government. Will this plan help build more affordable rental units for low-income residents?
It sure will. That's one of the focuses of that plan. That's why it's so important, I think. And I should say that that's an unprecedented development, having all of the social housing, community housing, and even landlord organizations come together in one affordable rental housing coalition and demand a solution to those problems. And also to lay out a costed 10-year plan to alleviate both the supply and the affordability problem, and to tackle homelessness. The one thing no one has ever done is to say, here's a plan that goes beyond one electoral cycle, beyond one provincial or federal budget. It's going to take all levels of government, all thinking beyond their next election prospects to make a dent in this problem. So that was our goal, to serve the broad market, to create affordable rental housing, market rental housing, housing targeted to those in the greatest need, and housing for people who are now homeless.
And since most of the co-op housings were built in the last 30 to 40 years, do you think the plan will significantly change that and increase the co-op housings that will be built?
I think what we're hoping is that there will be two things will happen as a result of there being extra money on the table from both the province and the federal government. One is that existing co-ops who are coming to the end of one development cycle will have an opportunity to reinvest in their communities and add homes to their existing sites. But the other is that we'll identify new sites, and we'll be able to build new co-ops with a combination of federal, provincial, and community housing sector money. And that's going to make a huge difference to people who are looking for affordable housing now.
And the homelessness count in BC is over 6,000. And there's been this housing first approach to housing, saying that ending homelessness won't happen until secure and affordable housing is available. What's your take on that?
I agree. And those numbers are even more startling than when the count was made. We think there are easily more than 7,000 homeless people in BC right now, and that number is growing every day. And it just seems obvious to me that if you target a homes first approach and you target interventions directed toward the real problems that people have, and you do it on a basis that's coordinated through the community, you can have the biggest impact in reducing chronic homelessness. You know, homelessness is a relatively recent phenomenon in BC. It's only been around for 15 to 20 years, and that's a short cycle. So we think we can have a dramatic impact on the homelessness crisis by targeting a homes first policy but investing in it properly, putting the resources on the table that have to be there to meet the demand.
The CHF has a campaign called You Hold the Key, which tries to mobilize thousands of people who live in co-ops who could be at risk of losing their housing. Do you think that the government will make a sort of renewed commitment to affordable housing in the next coming years?
You're identifying a real problem there. And you mentioned that co-ops have been around for 30 to 40 years. And they were developed primarily under federal financing agreements. And those agreements are coming to an end. And that means that in BC, up to 4,000 low-income co-op households could be without the support they need from the federal government to keep their homes affordable. So imagine taking the wait lists we have now for affordable homes in BC and adding 4,000 households in a span of 5 years to that list. It would be a catastrophic development. So You Hold the Key was developed to persuade all levels of government to commit to replacing those subsidies for low-income households when those operating agreements end. And we're very encouraged right now. We think that the commitments are there. We don't see the money yet, but the promises have been made to put a stable, permanent arrangement in place, and we think that will protect the homes we have now so we can focus on adding homes to a desperately short supply of affordable housing.
Hi everyone, I'm Barb Kimietch, and with me is Charles Tang and Alison Kelba, Anthony Lowe from the Rick Hansen Foundation. So you're here to talk with us about the accessibility certification program created by the foundation to continue Rick Hansen's mission to remove barriers and liberate the potential of people with disabilities. The pilot program is a job creation partnership program, I understand, and employs individuals with disabilities to rate the accessibility of built environments in both Vancouver and Victoria. So Alison, to start, can you talk to us about your role in the program and what excites you about it, what it means to you personally?
Okay, well, I am an access assistant, as is Anthony, and so there are 10 of us in Vancouver, and there are another 4 out in Victoria, and we received our training together, And we're in weekly communication with them so we can have discussions and questions. And so the thing that really excites me about being involved with the program, there's two reasons. And the first reason is I'm just honored and privileged to be with the Rick Hansen Foundation. And it's a wonderful goal. It's a great goal that they're working toward, and I'm really proud to be a part of the goal. I'm really proud to be bringing more awareness and education into accessibility in our built-in environment.
Yes. And for you personally, is there a specific meaning that you bring to it?
Well, I have a disability myself, so I'm using either my medical scooter or my cane. So I have personal reasons why I want our environment to be more accessible, but it's a great goal to have better access for everybody.
Sure.
Hi, Anthony. Can you tell us why the project is important and what the Rick Hansen Foundation would like to achieve? And I'm curious about your personal story. What brought you to the work and how it impacts on you directly? Yes.
Well, first of all, thank you, Charles and Bob, to have us here, and I'm so excited about it. As a matter of fact, I'm a little bit nervous about it. But anyway, I'll try my best to tell you my story. I know about Rick Hansen for many years. You know, of course, I believe everyone knows about Rick Hansen. He's my hero. The things that he's done is so inspiring, and he was able to raise millions of dollars to help people all over the world. And when go back a year and a half ago, when I heard about there was a posting that they're looking for accessibility assessment, without hesitation, I applied for the position, and surprisingly, they accepted me. So here I am today, and I'm learning something totally new to me, and it is very exciting and informative. Our goal here is to have 100% of the built environment in Canada, hopefully in Canada, is fully accessible by the year 2050. Okay, so when I first started with this program, I pretty much I didn't really understand what the meaning of it. The reason I applied is because, of course, Rick Hansen is named there, so I applied for it. But after I joined this program, I literally changed my entire perception about the accessibility. I learned a lot about little things in our life that we take it for granted.
Right.
However, that might be a very, I would say, an obstacle to people with disability. Say, for example, my teammate here, Allison. Most of you have seen those kind of ball-type doorknob. It's very common everywhere. For me, it's no problem. I can just grab it and turn it, open the door without any problem. But I didn't realize it is a challenge for Allison. She has to grab and turn it, but that is become a physically barrier to Allison.
Right.
So if we're able to change it to a lever type, so she can just grab it and turn it easily, that would significantly change her life.
Well, and
little thing like that.
Yeah, yeah. And Allison, you were talking earlier before we came on set that that you've learned from the people that you're working with, like they've opened your own eyes as to different challenges, I guess, that people deal with.
Yes, because I know what I need. I know what works for me, what benefits me as a person who uses either cane or scooter. But I don't have firsthand knowledge of what it's like to be blind or visually impaired. So it's been a really big learning process for me, which has been wonderful and interesting.
Wonderful. So what steps do you take actually when you go into a building? What are the steps you take to assess a building?
Well, first of all, we go to the facility
Yeah.
and we meet with the owner or the manager or whoever contact is. We have a sit down and we let them know what we're doing, the purpose of what we're doing, and that gives us a chance to ask them questions. If they have a certain area that they would like us to pay attention to, then we'll make note of that. And then we go and we look at different areas. We look at the staircases on the outside of the building, on the inside. We look at the washrooms, we look at the signage, including the workspaces. Having accessible workspaces is really important. And then once we have a look at that, we take a bunch of pictures and notes and measurements, and then we compile all that together and we go through and we have a rating system and we rate all those parts.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And I think you had a question about
Yeah,
that.
that's important, right? So, Anthony, can you tell us that if we make buildings more accessible, who will benefit? Is that only for people with disabilities or for all visitors or even for our community at large?
Disability not only means people with mobility issue. Okay, we are also talking about our aging population. Most of our baby boomer, most probably they are suffering with some sort of a disability. Let's say, for example, they need a walker, not only a wheelchair. So accessibility not only means accessible for people with visible disability. I'm lost.
So it affects everybody. I mean,
Yes,
right.
right.
I mean,
Yes,
all of
right.
us have the potential
Yes,
at
right.
some
Yes,
point.
right. Yes,
My
right.
mother uses a walker.
Exactly.
Right.
One man who taught us everything that we know,
Yes.
one thing he's always said is that everybody is temporarily able-bodied.
Right. Okay. That's an interesting way of putting it.
we
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
this
we
for
call
our
it
future.
TAP.
Yeah. Interesting.
TAB.
interesting.
Yeah, right.
So, just because I think our time, it's so interesting to hear. I'd love to hear so much more about this project. It's very valuable and meaningful. I understand that ratings are being offered free of charge in British Columbia up until March of 2019. Can you, if I'm a building manager, can you tell me how I can get that happening in my building?
Yes, they can contact access at rickhansen.com.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah. So Alice and Anthony, thank you much coming to share your personal stories and insight for these important issues. I think together we can make our city a better place, one building at a time. So if you are interested to learn more about the foundation and to help, you can log on their website at www.rickhansen.com. Thank you.
Welcome to Access Television on unceded Coast Salish territory. Today I am here with Sacred Trust manager and Tsleil-Waututh band member, Ruben George. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, the Sacred Trust is well known for the declaration to save the Fraser. Can you tell us more about that initiative?
Well, it was the Yinka Dene that created it to stop Enbridge, which they won, which they never said they could do it, and they won. But we signed that. But that's part of the allies that we work with. But to Tsleil-Waututh, what we're doing is stopping the expansion of the Kinder Morgan pipeline.
Well, how do you feel about the recent decision to approve the Kinder Morgan pipeline, and also the Liberal Party's announcement in around that decision that reconciliation only means that we do not have to be happy with the decisions made by the government?
Well, I think it's calculated. I think Trudeau and Christy Clark, they lied to the Canadian people. I think what they're doing is making a political choice to support their millionaire and billionaire friends. The United States, they consume $1 trillion annually in fossil fuels. And Canada is the #1 supplier. If you look at the Kinder Morgan pipeline, what they'll want to make is what they'll potentially make is $50 million a day. Their operation costs are 40%, which is the highest in the world, which makes Canada the 3rd worst polluter in the whole world. but the operation costs are 40%, their payouts are 10%. So that's taxation, landowners, and making deals to allow the land to go through. So they're still making 25 million a day, and that's a political choice. That's what they did, you know, up in the Alberta tar sands, the biggest industrial project in the world. People are dying, the water's dying, the people are dying, the animals are dying, you know, at the highest concentration rate of cancer. And that's even before, that's to extract the oil out of the tar. And it takes 2 tons of earth to get 1 barrel, 3.5 barrels of water to get 1 barrel. They're emptying the aquifer there. The aquifer supplies 20% of Canada's drinking water. And, you know, they did a study, Harper did actually, 3 years before Fort McMurray burnt down. And they said, you're going to empty the aquifer, you dry the tundra, and you're going to dry the forest, and disaster is going to happen, and that's what happened. So, you know, they ignored their own study about looking at the disaster that would happen. But what they're making is political choices about money to support their friends. Because we've done studies based on our culture and our spirituality. You know, what we have, and Minister Oliver, when he was working for Harper and Minister Environment, he said, why don't the First Nations take the money? They need it. But what he doesn't understand, we don't need it more than what the land and water feeds us. What we believe in is we're people of the inland. That's people, the water surrounding Vancouver. And that's our mother. So we have what we're taught is a reciprocal spiritual relationship with the lands and with the waters, and we can't put that at jeopardy.
Well, speaking of mothers, on Mother's Day, you held a really, really major event here called Paddle Up, where you invited people to come and sit in a canoe, and we all paddled over to the Kinder Morgan refinery. Can you tell us a little bit more about that initiative and how we can get involved?
Yeah, that's a good segue into it, because everything, like I said, we did a study on Kinder Morgan assessment, and that was based on our culture and our spiritual laws, which supersede Canada's, and that's why we told Kinder Morgan, we're not going to talk to you. It's nation-to-nation consultation.
Good.
But what our laws tell us, and things that we already knew, 80% of our diet, through studies, through science, and, you know, 80% of our diet came out of the water there. But not only our food, but the water feeds our spirit, and it's the highways of our people. But there's multiple reasons why how we love to use the water and have that reciprocal relationship to the water. Everything we get out of the water is good. Everything that we should be putting back in the water is good. And Kinder Morgan, what they're doing is not good. So our prayer with people from all over, politicians from municipal, federal, and provincial governments to First Nations, from some from around the world, from the Pacific Islanders. We had people from Washington State, Vancouver Island, everywhere. So
you actually had some people from Iran there too as well, and the media was there in full force. But they kind of painted a really, really kind of broad picture of what was happening there, I thought, and put kind of a negative spin on it, because everybody there was spiritually connecting to the land and the water. But that's unfortunate, I think. But enough about that. I mean, I love the Paddle Up, the Paddle Up initiative. How can people contact you to get into the canoes with you with one heart and one mind?
Well, you know, there's multiple things that we could do. Look at our website, and to Tsleil-Waututh Nation, and then look up Sacred Trust and all the questions that you'll have. You'll see our studies. The one study I talked about is a 1,200-page document assessing Kinder Morgan and why it's not good. That was assessment, but we did 3 other studies. One study said, not if, but when a spill would happen, 92% chance. And these are scientists, world-renowned scientists that we work with. The second says that the best case scenario, we could clean up 20%. You know, and in our main study assessment says 1 million people would be sick in hours. 500,000 birds would die within hours. And then the third study was working with economists, world-renowned economists, saying it's not good for our country. It's not good for Vancouver. It's not good.
There's no financial security in it for people that live here in Canada, I don't feel.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous because they say it's for jobs. Anything, most of what they say is lies. They say it's for jobs. If you built a super Walmart, you'd have more jobs.
Okay. Why would it be a danger to First Nations people to have like a steering committee that is made up of Aboriginal people?
Well, we have that with Tsleil-Waututh.
We do?
I believe that. We're pushing in that direction of, not only us, but the actions that we take don't just service us, but it services all of our neighbors.
Yeah.
Like, for example, our salmon count for our river was down to 6,000, brought it up to 10 million in 10 years.
Yeah.
And you know, that's work we did with our partners, or the elk reintroduction program that's bringing back wolves and grizzly bears, or what we've been doing to clean the inlet. You know, first time in 35 years, we did a clam harvest, and so we're enhancing what we have. Green energy is something that we push in the right direction for. But like I said, we come from a cultural and spiritual perspective that are our laws, but what we're looking to do is implement those cultural and spiritual ideas in all government aspects of economic development, of housing, of social assistance, of every aspect of our nation is going to come from that same point.
So there's benefits to engaging and participating.
There is a bit of a steering committee pointing us in that direction. And I believe all First Nations have that. Because you look at nations up in central British Columbia that rejected $1.6 billion. Our people need the money. You know, we're only 5% of Canada's population, but we're 40% of homeless. We're 40% of the jail population. So that money would help, but we can't put a price on what we believe isn't sacred. And even though we might be in dire straits, we're still making better decisions for us and for all our neighbors that live with us.
True, but by participating and sort of guiding these projects, you can ensure that it is greener, right? And that it is more environmentally safe.
But we're doing that anyway.
Yeah.
We're doing that, and if they don't abide by it, we'll sue them.
Yeah.
If we don't abide by it, we'll stop them. If they don't abide by it, we always say we will do what it takes to make sure that we get across about what we will do to protect what we love.
Which is the water, right?
And the land.
And the
and
land.
the people.
And the
animals, everything.
that can't speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Serge Simon actually said publicly that what happens here in British Columbia would affect the people that are in Kanesatake or Kahnawake, right? What happens there happens here and vice versa.
Well,
I love that.
Yeah. He said, if you mess with Tsleil-Waututh, you're messing with the Mohawks.
You know, he's got your back.
And I feel the same way. You know, I think things are changing. First Nations are winning 90% of our court cases around resource extraction. It's 170 legal victories in a couple of years. The tides have changed. They have to talk to us now. Industry does. They just can't go and cause all this destruction and kill the land and kill the water and kill the people. Look at Mount Poly. Look at Exxon Valdez. Over 22 years later, it's still a mess. Things don't go back to the way it used to be, and there are alternatives. I don't know if you know, Elon Musk's company, Tesla, outsold the oil industry in its first quarter. So there is alternatives. There are better ways to go and create more jobs. We know that for a fact, where we were part owners in a wind turbine company. You know, we're going green with our admin building. Right now our daycare is 90% green. So, you know, we know that for a fact, and you could reverse these harmful things that have happened.
The very harmful things. And how do we reverse that? What kind of strategies has the Sacred Trust come up with?
You know, we have little resources. You know, and for example, when we had a referendum, they said, you know, what I hear is that other nations are negotiating for hundreds of millions. And that's what I heard. But you know, we said we'll spend a little bit of our resources to stop it. And that's the same thing. We spend a little bit of our resources to enhance what we have. Like I said, the salmon enhancement program, the elk reintroduction, the clam beds, those are things that our community felt were important. My grandfather sat on a beach, and I saw a documentary, and it's pretty neat. Chief Dan George is my grandfather, and he sat on the beach and he said, my children and grandchildren won't experience what I experienced here in the waters. And I know that too for a fact already. In my short lifetime, every river and stream in North Shore had salmon and trout in it. And those days are long gone. But we could fix it. We could fix it when we have to make these places accountable. It's working in other countries, Portugal, Iceland. You know, Portugal had 4 days of the whole country of green energy. Iceland, their countries wouldn't want to borrow the money because, you know, it didn't look good for them. But they switched to green energy, and now countries are investing in them. You know, it could change, and what they have to do is get out of the pockets of these rich millionaire and billionaire companies.
Well, Lawrence Paul, who's also Salish, mentioned that perhaps these industries should be partnering with First Nations people and paying their taxes to First Nations people as opposed to the government. I know he just threw that out there, but I mean, it really appealed to me. It may be impractical at this point, but
I think for that might be a good idea. But one thing that comes to my mind is some countries do charge 80% tax on fossil fuel.
Yeah.
And that's changing. They don't have nurse problems or teacher problems or medical problems. It's free university, free college. They don't have those problems. It's free for them. And what they're doing instead of is giving tax break, because they get $5 billion in subsidies to the fossil fuel industry from Canadian taxpayers, given to the fossil fuel industry. If we put the same initiative towards green energy, it will take care of a lot of our problems. And it's been proven over and over again. And in fossil fuel industry, it's wrecking things as it goes along.
Well, we only have a few more minutes here. Like, can you give us some contact information for Sacred Trust, and also let us know of any up-and-coming events that our audience might want to support, and how can we donate and support further initiatives through the Sacred Trust?
Check out Pull Together, Tsleil-Waututh Nation, Squamish Nation, and Coldwater help out with the court case. That'd be really nice. And yeah, look at our website and take a close look at Sacred Trust, Tsleil-Waututh Nation Sacred Trust. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you so much. I've been waiting a very long time to speak with you and share you with the audience members of Access Television. And I really regret not coming up and saying hello to your mother on Mother's Day. I really, really felt like, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I go up to her and acknowledge her and say, hello, Amy George, I appreciate all of the work that you've done for the people, and I intend to warrior up with the rest of them in an effort to stop Kinder Morgan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Welcome back to Sizzling Hot Red Topics on Access Television. I'm Gunnar G. O'Sullivan. On my way here, I ran into the Balmoral Hotel, where East Van Movers has graciously basically volunteered to move the people from the Balmoral Hotel to their new address. The other day, I went to Abbotsford to the CIVL conference, the National Community Radio Association conference. They had their AGM. And apparently all the board members are now women, which I think is really victorious for the women. Way to go. It should change, the face of communications in campus and community radio. They also celebrated the NCRA's Indigenous sign. Congratulations on that. But don't forget about the adoption scoop. If you want to know more about the 60 Scoop adoption litigation here in British Columbia, please go to Facebook page, The Scoop on the 60 Scoop. On top of all of this, what else do we have? But one lady going and doing an exhibit at 1515 Gallery. I saw it just last week. Her name was Charlene Vickers, an amazing, amazing artist who does these moccasins made out of leather, but on the inside we get to see a bunch of like beer labels like Old Style, Molson, and Canadian. Really, really quite interesting to look at and think about. Thank you for joining me on Access Television, Sizzling Hot Red Topics.
Last month, City Hall held a public hearing on 105 Kiefer. It's a very controversial condo development, and Jamie Liang and Stephanie Fung of the Chinatown Action Group are here today to tell us why we need to keep the resistance movement going, even after 105 Kiefer. They're here to talk about the future of Vancouver's Chinatown.
Hi, I'm Stephanie, and this is Janie, and we're with the Chinatown Action Group.
大家好，我叫做梁詠詩，佢叫馮葉，我哋係代表華埠行動小組。
So CG is an intergenerational collective of people of Chinese descent organizing for people power and social justice on unceded Coast Salish territories. So Janie, what's new in Chinatown?
Wow, it's been a really busy month for us, for the Chinatown community. So just in May, there was a public hearing for a proposed 12-story condo development at the 105 Kiefer site. So hundreds of community members mobilized to City Hall to express their opposition for this condo tower.
Wow, that sounds like an intense battle happening. What's next?
Yeah, well, there's no rest for the community. So coming up, the City of Vancouver will be updating their Chinatown Economic Revitalization Action Plan, which is known in the community as the CRAP. And this is a new proposed development policy that's going to be setting heights and density requirements for the developers who are building in Chinatown. So the focus of this policy is really to, as they say, stimulate the economy, and we know that it's going to continue to bring in higher-end retail stores in the neighborhood and also bring in expensive condos that really is serving a new wealthier class of people to live in Chinatown and not the low-income people that live there. So the most concerning part for us is that there used to be a requirement for senior social housing to be included in this plan if developers build above a certain height. But what we've just learned is that with this newest update to the plan and what they're going to be proposing to council is that they removed this requirement for senior social housing. And this is concerning for us because actually based on the work we've been doing in the community, what we've been hearing is that we actually need a lot more social housing. So Steph, do you want to talk a bit more about what Chinatown Action Group has been working on in the community as an alternative?
Definitely. Yeah, so CAG has been working on creating an alternative vision. This is called the People's Vision for Chinatown, which is a strategy for social and economic development of Vancouver Chinatown. So we've been doing a lot of this work with the Chinatown Concern Group, and this vision is really centered around the needs of community members in Chinatown and the solutions that they've identified for their neighborhood. So it's not just a call for action to those who live in Chinatown, but really for everyone across Vancouver, and really including our elected officials. And what I find really cool about this vision is that unlike other reports and plans about Chinatown, this one isn't just about proposals for buildings and parks, but really about centering on decision-making processes and building the leadership capacity of those who live in Chinatown, because communities across Vancouver really want to take the lead in making decisions, and the Chinatown community really wants to support and be involved in all this and join voices.
Yeah, definitely. And I think part of the reason why we started working on this People's Vision is because what we're seeing with previous public consultation processes that the city puts on, both around 105 Kiefer and now around this CRAP plan, is that the way they're structured, it's really excluding the Chinese-speaking residents from participating because one of the big things is the language barrier. So a lot of the materials is not sufficiently translated in Chinese, or there's not enough interpretation services at these meetings. So essentially they're being left out of these big decisions about the neighborhood they live in.
Exactly, whereas in our People's Vision, we strive to be super inclusive. We did that by building trust and relationships with those living in the community, because what people have to say matters, and we want to bring their voices to the forefront, especially when it comes to identifying solutions in Chinatown. Because folks told us they wanted more affordable social housing in Chinatown. They told us they wanted retail markets that were culturally appropriate, so like having more BBQ meat stores. They also told us they wanted low-cost intergenerational community spaces and educational programs such as workshops on history and anti-racism. They wanted to be involved in collective and democratic decision-making. They wanted to feel safe in their neighborhoods, and they also wanted preventative health services that cater to seniors and poor people. So in the long term, we're definitely going to continue to engage with residents and really implement these solutions that we've discussed. But in the short term, if the CRAP goes to public hearing, we'll definitely be doing an action.
Yeah, and we really see this as something that is being asked for by the community and that we will fight for as a community. So in the coming weeks and months, we're going to be asking our supporters and allies to join us in making this vision a reality. So we'll be planning a launch of the People's Vision for Chinatown very soon. So you can follow us on our Facebook page, which is Chinatown Action Group, for updates. And you can also send us an email at chinatownactiongroup@gmail.com.
Kelly, and now that it's summertime, Bradley and I have decided to share with you a few of our favorite summer treats. And we'll start with Bradley, I think, because he's got the most delicious looking treat. Bradley, what did you bring today to share with us?
Popsicles, and I made it with my auntie, and I did the berries.
You did?
Blueberries,
Blueberries,
strawberries, raspberries, blackberries.
Wow. What else is in there? Is there just berries in there? Or anything
There's
else?
coconut milk.
Coconut milk. Wow. Is this one of your favorite summer
And I
times?
blended it.
And you blended it. And then did you put it in the freezer too?
My auntie did it.
Your auntie did. Oh, wonderful. Wow. And do you have a favorite berry then? What's your favorite berry?
It's all 4 of them.
All 4 of them? You don't even have a favorite.
All 4 of them are my favorite.
Yeah, and they're very good for you, aren't they? They've got lots of antioxidants in them, don't they? Yeah, very delicious too. How about your brother and your sister? Do they have favorite berries? Their favorite flavor?
Just likes strawberries, and my sister and my mom likes blueberries, and my auntie.
How about your dad? Does he have a favorite berry?
Blackberry.
Blackberries. Wow, you sound like a healthy family. Thanks for sharing that, Bradley. So what I brought today is I brought a plant, and it's known as the little dragon. And we know it by the name of tarragon. So the French use it quite a bit in their cooking, but I don't think a lot of people in Canada know much about it. Now tarragon, you can use it to flavor a lot of different things. So you can use it to make some juices. Now these are more like juices that grown-ups would probably have. They're vegetable juices. So tarragon goes really well with cucumber and watercress, so you can make a really healthy juice with the tarragon and some lemon juice and those vegetables. And it also goes really nice with this one here. Do you want to take a guess? What vegetable do you think I made this from? It starts with the letter T. Which one do you think it is? Red and, should I tell you? Yeah, it's actually a tomato. So a lot, yeah, tomatoes. Do you like tomatoes?
I love them.
You do? A lot of people like to have tomato juice. It makes a nice cool juice in the summertime. And you can flavor it with the tarragon and the chives and a little bit of lemon juice and garlic. So it's really refreshing. Another thing you can do with the tarragon, the herb, is you can preserve the leaves. The fresh leaves are best. And you just preserve it in a little bit of vinegar and make a nice salad dressing there. So it tastes really good on your summer salad if you've got watercress and cucumber in there. Or you can use it with, let's say you can mix it in with some sour cream or mayonnaise, and you can put that on top of your beet. Thank you very much, Bradley. And now we go to Eugene Crane, and his guest is the award-winning Sandy Schofield. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome to Access Community Television. My name is Eugene Crane, and this is Indigenous Entertainment. Today in the studio we have Sandy Schofield. She's a multi-award winning composer, musician, and singer. A Métis from Saulteaux and Cree Nations, she hails from 4 generations of fiddlers, singers, and musicians. Among her 4 recordings to date, she has won 5 Canadian Music Awards, a Canadian Folk Music Award, an Indian Summer Music Award in the USA, a Western Canadian Music Award, and received 3 consecutive Juno nominations and traveled the world doing it. Welcome to the studio, Sandy.
Thank you, Eugene. It's an honor to be here.
Thanks for coming. I hear you're working on a new project.
I am. I've been honored to be invited to perform next month in July 22nd at the National Arts Centre in Ottawa. It's a show of, it's called Anishinaabe Kwe, which means woman in Algonquin, Indian woman in Algonquin. And Digging Roots is going to be backing up a number of singers for the first set. And the second set is with Tanya Tagak. So within the first set will be featured myself, Amanda Rayum, Isqueo, and I believe that's it.
Mo Clark as well?
Mo Clark, that's correct, Mo
Yeah.
Clark. I thought there was somebody else. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're also performing. You're very busy. You're also performing at the Folk Fest this summer.
I am.
With a different group of people.
I am. There's a group of us in town called, and we present ourselves in the capacity of, we call ourselves like the women in the round. It tends to be Delana Bowen, who's a blues singer, Renee Morisseau, who is a beautiful folk singer, Andrea Menard, also a folk singer, and myself, and my stuff's all over the place. So we do like a typical festival scenario where we go around and we accompany each other and we jump in and sing on each other's songs. So I think from an audience perspective, it's a really nice presentation because you get the diversity of the 4 songwriters and the beauty of them all singing together. So,
nice. I can't wait I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so we're going to be playing the festival. We're really excited about that.
Anything else you wanted to add? Oh, you're also working on a new album.
I'm working on a new album. I'm hoping to have it out by the end of the year. It'll be my 5th release. And I've been really blessed to have the same group of musicians playing with me now for a number of years. That's Randall Stahl on the drums, Stephen Nicleva on guitar, and Brian Minato on bass.
Nice. So look forward to Sandy Scofield's new album coming out this fall, you think?
But before Christmas, yeah.
Awesome. Before we go, I wanted to just give a shout out to MTS Popat, and he's on next on the One Love West Coast Festival. And as we exit, Sandy Scofield, if you could play us out to a song.
My pleasure. This song is called Anishinaabe Kwe, and it's an Ojibwe social song that was given to me a few years ago.
Hi, this is MTS Puppet, and with me is Ana David from the Latinos in Action Foundation. And they have produced the Latin Summer Festival at Trout Lake for 15 years, from 2001 2015. And now they're expanded to a big festival at Swangard Stadium in the middle of August, and it's called One Love West Coast Festival. Ana, tell us about this new festival.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to have this opportunity with Access TV and have this conversation. My goodness, what can I say? Festival time, you know, summertime, all the excitement that comes with that. And the community, of course, it's all about the community coming together. And when people ask me, I say, it's a peace festival, it's coming together. How relevant is that for 2017? As a community to celebrate Afro, Latino, and reggae music and culture. So very exciting, lots going on, as you can tell. And very happy.
So it's an evolution from the Latin Summer Festival, bringing together Afrobeats and reggae. Tell us, who are some of the performers that are coming?
Definitely the upgrade, shall we say, from Latin to what we're doing now. We've always had Afro roots, of course, in the Latin American culture and music, as you know, and also because we were involved last year with the September Luciano concert in Surrey in reggae, we decided to add the reggae component as well. So that makes it even more exciting for us and to present all this music. I think some of the community is not quite so familiar with the groups we're bringing, such as Anti-Doping is a band from Mexico City.
But this is really interesting because there's a Mexican band that does reggae, right?
Huge.
So you bring that in. So it's a good balance.
You know, we always feel really awkward because we say these people fill stadiums everywhere they go, and then they come to Canada and people would say, well, we don't know who this band is.
Right.
So we're really relying a lot on the Mexican community, which is very large here, to bring that forward and tell people who these amazing people are. They've been celebrating Resistance for 25 years, so it's a very old band. We're happy to have them. They're coming through a tour, as well as the Sentiments from Portland, which are amazing reggae band as well. And all the big guys that are fusion, Latino, Afro beat type of bands that are local. So we're so excited to host them as well.
Right. Now the opening night is here at the Rickshaw in Vancouver.
It is. We have two sides of the festival. The VIP concert, which is red carpet at the Rickshaw, is on Friday, August 11th. Everything is up on the link and the sites as well. And then Saturday, Sunday, we're moving on to the big stadium over at Swangard Stadium in Burnaby. So Burnaby has been going through this process with us for 3 years. So finally, year 4, we're able to produce the festival.
Right, so there'll be performance, but there'll be other things happening, like a festival style marketplace.
Of course.
Celebration, like a caravana type thing, maybe?
Everything you imagine a festival should have, we're trying very hard to produce and have as a content. Always a Latin festival is known for the food, amazing food.
Yes.
And needless to say, the music and the dancing, especially the dancing.
Yeah. But I think, like you said, you know, you being from Dominican Republic, that blend between Afro-Latin has always been there anyhow, because of the migration. So bringing this together in this festival is a natural progression, isn't it?
And what we saw with the Reggae Festival, now that you mentioned that, is the mix of people.
Right.
The mixture of all the different backgrounds. I have my güiro here with me, which is very Latin American, Caribbean specific. And it's something that you don't see a lot played and being part of the music, but like in Puerto Rico, Cuba, Dominican Republic, it's the güiro. So that needs to be sort of a background to the drums and all the other accordion type of music. So I brought my little güiro from Dominicana for you.
Yeah, and this represents the West Coast?
It does. It is a beautiful drum provided through a connection from the Gabriel family in Fort Langley. And it's I'm very proud to own that drum as representing the West Coast people.
Right. Why people, and what about tickets?
Tickets, that's the difference this time. We used to be a free event at Trout Lake for many, many years. And in order for us to bring all these bands from abroad, we have to be able to have a revenue stream. So that's why it's only $20 for adults, and children under 12 are free.
Right, but it's still an affordable festival.
Very much so.
Right. And why should people come? What will they see? Why should they come and support this new One Love West Coast Festival?
I think the key here is unity. And this year, out of all years, we need a lot of peace and spaces to hold that peace and celebration. So please come, don't miss this. Bring your family, bring grandma and the kids, and we'll be waiting for you at the Swangard Stadium and the Rickshaw Theater as well.
Oh, Anna, thank you so much. I'm talking to Anna David about the One Love West Coast Festival. It's a brand new festival here in the West Coast in Burnaby at Swangard Stadium. What are the dates again?
Again, it's produced by Van Music and Latinos in Action, and the dates are August 11th, which is the Friday at the Rickshaw, and then the 12th and 13th at Swangard Stadium.
Ana, muchas gracias.
Gracias a ti.
Karen Jameson Dance and the Carnegie Dance Troupe bring you Metamorphose on July 9th at SFU Woodwards. It's a completely free show, but donations are always welcome. Go to dancingontheedge.org for more.
Sacred, river is free, river runs gracefully down to the sea. Ancient valleys, forests of pine, my soul is at rest in these mountains sublime. Raven and eagle, beaver and bear, wondrous wilderness equally shared. A living landscape deeply imbued, spirit and flesh in cycle renewed. No tankers on our coast, tankers on our coast. No pipelines across our land. Mist on the water silently clears, and out of the deep a vast shape appears. Flash of a fin, twist of a tail,